Hi, this is Denise.
Hey, this is Maggie.
Welcome to our podcast, Candor and Courage at Work.
Denise and I have known each other for a long time, a couple of decades, HR pros, and we thought it might be helpful if we got together and shared some of the things that we've learned along the way.
That's right, Maggie. Many struggle with being candid and being courageous, and we just want to use what we've learned to help you use those traits in your daily work life.
Here's hoping that makes you more successful. And here we go.
Today, we're going to shift gears, and instead of having more instructional or learning around candor and courage, we want to dive into some listener questions that we've received through our various channels. And the first question is from Anne, and it's about being candid. And normally I'm the candid answerer, but we're going to switch things up and we're going to answer questions about each other's topic. So, Maggie, the question is, what if I have a valid point to make, but I'm concerned I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings?
Well, I think we've all encountered that, and it is good because it's indicative of being mindful of the other person. Mm-hmm. Right. So we're not just thinking about ourselves and the feedback that we feel compelled to share with that person. And certainly from the standpoint of, again, my having practiced the brutal honesty and learning through your insights and experiences, the value of, let me just be candid with you. Mm-hmm. So as it happens, yesterday, I was on the receiving end of someone providing me with feedback without being mindful of how it might hurt my feelings. And in fact, my feelings were hurt.
Okay.
And it was in one of those situations where I have this cardinal rule about praise in public and criticize in private.
Yes.
If that individual had said to me the exact same things that they said, but had done so in a one-on-one,
correct,
it might have still hurt my feelings, but it wouldn't have been compounded by being embarrassed and being called out publicly. So basically, the situation was that the person delved right into making an observation about my capabilities around a particular aspect that we were meeting as a group, and I had prefaced delving into sharing some of the experiences that I had by saying, I need help with this particular aspect. And then I went about delving into, here's what my experiences have been, and here's where I feel like I'm missing it. And lo and behold, one of my fellow attendees jumped right in and said, you're not doing it, and that it's about that aspect. I see your enthusiasm, but you are not doing it. You need to really focus on doing it. And it just took me aback because, of course, I'm sitting there and it's a Zoom call and everybody's still smiling, but some of those smiles seemed a little artificial at that point.
Right.
Especially mine. And some of them might have been sympathetic.
Oh, gosh, this is so awkward.
Oh, yeah. So she just got called out.
Let's see how she handles this.
So my feelings were hurt. And in thinking about Anne's question, I realized that, one, that would have been entirely fine privately. Mm-hmm. And so I think that when we're thinking about how somebody might react to that feedback, you've advocated getting in the right headspace, making sure your intentions are correct. Like, I don't think the person in the meeting intended to hurt my feelings. I think she was validating that I needed help on a particular aspect of what I was seeking, and just jumped right into the observation, and then maybe realized a little bit that she should back off. But if she had started with, hey, I see that your enthusiasm is there, and reinforced that positive that I had already highlighted, and then said, but you're not doing this thing. You're not really achieving what it is that you need to achieve, because the enthusiastic part is just overwhelming.
Okay.
that. So I think two things: being mindful of how the person might react is a great place to start, because it helps ensure that your intentions are going to align with the impact that you have. I think being mindful of providing that feedback in a setting that is conducive to the conversation. So it goes back to the building of trust and having that in a private setting if it's critical. And then if you're in a situation where it's still going to come out in a public setting, which I really try to avoid, especially having happened to me, but um, then I think it's trying to ensure that you start with something positive that's reinforcing,
Hmm.
and then leading into some way of providing them with that feedback and being candid. And one of the things I know that you do that I love is let me be candid with you. Even if the conversation had started in the public setting with that, then I would have put that in the context, oh, you're not just being brutally honest, you're being candid, which is kind.
Yeah. And I think that you, having, had a long experience with these types of conversations, it didn't catch you completely off guard because you've been used to, I'm sure, confrontational conversations. But I completely agree with you. I mean, I wish that the person who was sharing that feedback with you had maybe listened to our podcast before that
Right.
meeting, because number one, you were being vulnerable and you were practicing the very thing we talked about in last episode of seeking feedback from people. And now, what a wonderful lesson for all of us is that using empathy to put ourselves in the position of the person asking, and how would I like to receive that feedback? But clearly, that person doesn't mind brutality. So,
Nope. Nope.
so I agree. I think that you really do need to stop for a second and think about the message you want to convey. Are you in the right headspace, like we've talked about in the prior episodes? But also, is what I'm saying to Maggie in this case going to serve her well? And is it also going to serve the others that are in that meeting? Because I can imagine I was feeling the awkwardness as you were describing this. And I'm thinking, well, they're not going to speak up now, or they're not going to ask questions. If this was a typical meeting, I don't know the content of your meeting, but now you've shied away people from giving candid feedback, and maybe giving you candid feedback because
Mhm.
you've already taken a bullet here and they're just like, we don't want to.
I think we'll just remain silent. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And so what did that serve? But again, I think not knowing who you're talking about, I believe you in your interpretation of this person thought that she was being kind, thought that they were giving feedback, but just didn't put the other person's thoughts or feelings into play when they chose to relay the feedback.
Yeah. And that's really the point. I even did it on the fly because I had to. You too have been in
Hmm.
many situations where you have not chosen to be the recipient of some critical feedback in a
Hmm.
public setting. But on the fly, one of the things that I always tell folks and I remind myself of, I get to own my feelings.
Correct.
So I owned immediately that I found it embarrassing, but I also said there's value here.
Hmm.
And what is the value? She has just validated that I had put out there that I needed help. And she
Okay.
just validated that in making that observation. And I also needed to pivot at the right juncture to continue the conversation along another vein and give everybody the space to kind of change gears, because the host of the meeting and the other attendees were kind of, to your point, going, I don't think I can weigh in on this.
What do I
So,
say now?
yeah, yeah. So, and that's what I did. And that's
Yeah.
what I did.
Yeah.
So it was a great question from Anne, because it just, in hearing about somebody's feelings, lo and behold, it was mine.
Yeah, thanks, Anne, for that timely question. We're glad that Maggie had an example to share.
Yeah. And so with that, we'll shift gears and tackle the question from Barbara. I often find myself hesitating to speak up because I fear backlash. How can I overcome that fear?
Okay, so I have been in that situation myself where, depending on who's the conversation with, but it's just really thinking about the person that I need to speak up to and what the possible ramifications are. And I guess for me, my intention going into speaking up, part of that candor is I want to seek improvement. I want to seek improvement either on a particular issue that the organization is facing or a personal or leadership issue that the associate is facing. And so again, I set myself in that headspace of what are my goals here and what are my intentions and how do the words I choose honor those intentions.
Great.
And so, if I don't have the ability to rehearse ahead of time, because I do rehearse, I mean, I want to make sure that the message I'm conveying is clear, because candor can sometimes, we've discussed how it can be taken negatively. So, if I haven't had a chance to rehearse, my immediate thought is to be quiet and just quickly gather my thoughts. And if I don't know the answer, I might say, I'm gonna need some more time around this, and I need to think about it and
That's
get back
excellent.
to you,
Mhm.
okay? Because I know I'm not ready to speak on it. But if I have had a chance to, organize my thoughts and perhaps prepare for how I'm gonna to deliver, information or speak up, especially when there's, high stakes or there's concern over, the backlash as Barbara called it. I guess for me, I think about Stephen Covey and begin with the end in mind.
Yep, exactly.
And I realize I'm going to be okay. I need to trust that speaking up is not going to be a career killer, not going to be anything that I can't overcome, even if I do temporarily hurt somebody's feelings or put them in a thought about me that they didn't like the message. Because when you were just describing earlier, I was thinking about, yeah, I can think about a couple times when I was just the messenger
Right.
and faced the backlash. So I think you just have to trust that you're going to be okay. Again, follow Maggie's steps to being courageous and just trust you're going to be okay. And then put yourself in the right headspace to deliver the information you're delivering, whether it's feedback or not, and just rehearse and make sure that you're honoring those intentions when you speak up.
I think that's great. And certainly harking back to Covey's begin with the end in mind is really reinforcing even the answer that we talked through about Anne's question. It
Mhm.
is feel the fear and do it anyway, right?
It is. It is. And you have to, especially when it comes to improving things, you have to look at the other side of it. And what are the pros that I'm going to get, or that the company is going to get, or this individual that I'm speaking to is going to get? What are the benefits that they're going to get from me sharing this information? And I have to more or less just tighten up my core and say I'm going to go forward and do this because I want these benefits to be realized. And so if I don't say anything, nothing's going to change. And perhaps the person I care about or the organization I care about is not going to improve. So I have to look towards the exterior benefits, those outside of myself, and really say, I'm going to be brave and I'm going to feel the fear. I'm going to work through it. Again, with my rehearsing, trust that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to step forward because at the end of the day, I think we're all going to get more benefits out of it than just the temporary angst I feel about taking that step.
Yeah, and fear is real, but courage is not the absence of fear, right?
Correct.
We've definitely learned that. One of the things that came to mind in thinking about those improvements, and probably one of the great fears that folks have always had is in acknowledging when a mistake's been made.
Mm-hmm.
The backlash, if you acknowledge it. As a leader, one of the things that I really reinforced to my team, particularly because we were in human resources, we are not perfect. We learn day in, day out that we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. And so my ask to the team was, let's make mistakes that we can correct because we are dealing with people's livelihoods.
Yes.
And the mistakes that I do not want to make are the ones that negatively impact someone's livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for leaders, thinking about how they create the environment that helps others be more courageous and stepping up and saying, hey, I made a mistake, is by minimizing the fears around the backlash from the leader when a mistake is made, by articulating the expectation that I do want to know if something has occurred, but I'd like to know sooner rather than later. And I'd like to keep in mind that while I'd love to achieve perfection, it's not going to happen, and keeping it very real and comfortable for folks so that that backlash is minimized. And then as a leader myself, when someone would step up and say, hey, I made a mistake, I reminded myself and I said out loud to them, let's fix it. Mistakes are going to be made, but let's ensure that they are the mistakes that we can fix in short order, again, that don't impact the livelihood of folks.
I think that's so key. I think many of us, I know it's my issue. One of my issues is perfectionism. I want it to be perfect. I want to spend my time on things that are executed well, that don't have problems. And hey, how realistic is that? So I think if we go into it saying, and I try to say this to my team, that we will make mistakes. We absolutely are going to do that. But let's, to your point, let's discuss them. Let's get in there early intervention, and let's recover from them so that we have the chance to still have the outcome we want, but we're planning for it so that we know how to address it when it comes along.
And it removes the fear of the backlash when people know ahead of time that you already acknowledge it's going to happen. Let's identify it and move on.
Yep.
So, great questions from our listener mailbag. We invite folks to continue to let us know what kinds of questions they have. And we thank you for listening and enjoying the insights that we are sharing by way of our experiences.
Keep them coming. We really do enjoy the interaction with our audience. So thank you. Thank you for joining us today for Candor and Courage at Work.
We hope you found some inspiration and encouragement in today's episode.
For more information or to connect with us, visit our website, candorandcourageatwork.com, and be sure to download future episodes wherever you listen.